courtroom, we have Nicole Walker, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, Michaela Poles, mother, Ms. Poles' attorney, Dan Fagan, Wyatt Eggleston, father of Donald, I believe, Mr. Nunzio representing him. We have Ms. Lowry representing Mr. Talbert. And then we have the child's attorney, Jim Owens, or children's attorney, Jim Owens, various foster care and CPS workers, as well as the foster parent in this matter. We are here today for an adjudication in this matter. And it's my understanding that the parties have reached a plea agreement, at least with regards to Ms. Poles and Mr. Eggleston. Ms. Walker?
That's my understanding, Your Honor.
All right. And would you please place the proposed amendments on the record?
Do you want me to read through the petition or just the...
Not the entire petition, just make
Okay.
a note on the record of what the changes to the amended petition that was submitted are.
Okay. It's my understanding that mom will be admitting to A, B, C, D as amended. The last few sentences were crossed out. E has been deleted. Mr. Eggleston will be admitting to paragraph F.
You understand that you have had a right to have this hearing conducted in person in the courthouse. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And you're waiving that right today to proceed virtually?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Are any of the children in this case eligible for membership in a Native American band or tribe, or currently members of a Native American band or tribe? Ms. Poles?
No.
Mr. Eggleston,
No.
regarding your child?
No.
Thank you. And Mr. Owens, do you believe that the proposed plea pleas are in the best interest of the children?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And Ms. Poles, do you understand the petition, the amended petition?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Eggleston, same question.
Yes.
All right. If you enter a plea today, you will be giving up a number of rights. The first is the right to a trial by a judge or a jury, the right to require that the prosecutor prove the allegations against you by a preponderance or a majority of the evidence, the right to question the prosecutor's witnesses in person in court under oath, and the right to have the court order that any witnesses that you believe would be helpful to you to come to court to testify. Do you have any questions about those rights, Ms. Poles?
No.
Mr. Eggleston?
No.
Do you understand the rights that you'll be losing or giving up if you enter a plea today, Ms. Poles?
Yes.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Okay. There are a number of consequences that may flow from your plea today. The first is that your children may be made temporary wards of the court. What that means is the court has broad discretion regarding placement, which can be in foster care with a relative or in a suitable institution. You will be required to comply with a treatment plan to show that you're able to provide a safe and appropriate home for your children. You may also be required to pay for some of the costs of this case, including your attorney fees, cost of care if children are placed outside of the home, counseling costs, etc. Now, we all hope that this next thing will not happen, and it certainly will not happen today, but I am required to tell you about all of the possible future consequences of your plea. If you can't show that you are able to provide a safe and appropriate home for your children within a reasonable amount of time, given the circumstances and your progress, there may be a future request to terminate your parental rights, and your plea today may be used as evidence in that proceeding. If your rights are ultimately testified or terminated in the future, you will have no input as to your children's medical treatment, education, discipline, or residence. You will also have no right to parenting time with your children and no legally enforceable right to inherit from them or receive their earnings. If you have a child support obligation, that will continue until a court of competent jurisdiction modifies or terminates it and an order of adoption is entered or the child is emancipated by operation of law. Do you understand all of these possible future consequences, Ms. Poles?
Yes.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Do you have any questions regarding the consequences or possible consequences of today's plea if you choose to admit the allegations in the petition. Ms. Poles,
No.
Mr. Eggleston,
No.
and Ms. Poles, have you reviewed the petition and plea agreement with your attorney?
Yes.
Do you need to speak with him any further before we proceed?
No.
Mr. Eggleston, have you reviewed the petition and plea agreement with your attorney?
Yes.
Do you need to speak with him again before we go any further?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read the petition paragraph by paragraph, and then I will ask each of you whether you admit or deny each of those paragraphs. All right. Paragraph A reads, Ms. Michaela Poles is the biological mother of elder, DP the middle, and DP the younger. Ms. Poles?
Yes, I admit.
Paragraph B, Mr. White Eggleston is the legal father of DP the elder per Muskegon County front of the court case. Mr. Eggleston?
Yeah.
You admit?
I admit. Sorry, I admit.
That's okay. It's okay. Paragraph C reads, well, we're skipping. No, I think paragraph C reads, Mr. Richard Tolbert is the legal father to DP the middle per Ottawa County front of the court case number. Ms. Poles?
I admit.
Paragraph D reads, the putative father of DP the younger is unknown. No one claiming to be the father of this child has come forward to provide any care, custody, financial, or emotional support for the child. Additionally, the unknown father has done nothing to rectify the conditions that exist in the home, which caused this case to come before the court. Ms. Poles?
I admit.
Paragraph E was deleted. Paragraph F. On March 21st, 2023, Mr. Eggleston was arrested and charged with criminal conduct in the first and second degree. At an unknown date or time, Mr. Eggleston used his sister, who was under the age of 13 years old at the time of the offenses. The victim reports she was on multiple occasions. One of these incidents occurred in front of his son, DP the elder. Mr. Eggleston?
I admit.
Paragraph G, on April 20th, 2023, a petition was authorized by referee Winther removing DP the elder from his father's care and suspending parenting time until the bond conditions in his criminal matter are amended. The petition was authorized due to Mr. Eggleston assaulting his sister in the presence of DP the elder. DP the elder was released to the care of his mother, Ms. Michaela Poles. Ms. Poles was court ordered to cooperate with MDHHS and its contracted agencies, case number 2301. Mr. Eggleston? Paragraph H reads, on October 23rd, 2023, Mr. Eggleston pled to one count of CSC. His plea agreement included a delay of sentence to participate in YSOTP. If he successfully completes the program, Mr. Eggleston could withdraw his plea and enter a plea for one count of seduction. Mr. Eggleston?
I admit.
Paragraph I, on October 16th, 2023, Children's Protective Services received a report alleging abuse and neglect of DP the younger by Ms. Michaela Poles. Ms. Poles?
I admit.
Paragraph J, on September 12th, 2023, Ms. Michaela Poles tested positive for amphetamines, methamphetamines, and THC. On October 19th, 2023, Ms. Poles admitted to using methamphetamine at one time during her pregnancy. DP the younger tested positive for methamphetamine and amphetamines at birth. Ms. Poles completed an oral drug screen on October 19th, 2023. She tested positive for amphetamine, 455.5 NGs per milliliter, and methamphetamine, 2,196.7 NGs per milliliter. DP the elder was able to testify or identify and describe what weed is. He reported his mom and Mr. Killinger smoke in the bathroom and in their bedroom. Ms. Poles?
I admit.
Paragraph K, on October 24th, 2023, a referral was made for a substance abuse assessment into the Family Engagement Program. Ms. Michaela Poles did not return calls to the program. Attempts have been made to engage Ms. Poles to participate in services. However, Ms. Poles has been inconsistent with her willingness to participate with services. Ms. Poles?
I admit.
Paragraph I, on November 14th, 2023, ongoing worker Alicia Ledesma went to the home to complete a family team meeting with Ms. Poles. Ms. Poles agreed to complete a substance abuse assessment and sign a release of information to verify mental health services through Network 180. Ms. Poles declined to provide an oral drug screen. Ms. Poles admitted to using methamphetamine during the end of her pregnancy to self-medicate herself for ADHD as she could not obtain a medication prescription while pregnant. Ms. Poles.
I admit.
Paragraph M, on October 14, 2023, CPS investigator Alyssa Kitterberg stopped by the home to get Ms. Poles to sign a release. Ms. Poles would not answer the door and forwarded the phone call to voicemail. Ms. Poles was made aware earlier in the day that a worker would stop by to get her signature. Ms. Poles.
I admit.
Paragraph N, on November 24th, 2023, contact was made with Cherry Health Heart of the City Pediatrics. It was confirmed that DP the younger had not been seen for a newborn appointment. Ms. Poles did not show up to an appointment scheduled on November 4, 2023. There are no future scheduled appointments for DP the younger.
I admit.
And we are adjourning regarding paragraphs O and P. Ms. Poles, have anyone promised you anything or threatened you in any way in order to encourage you to admit these allegations?
No.
And are you making these, are you admitting these allegations of your own free will?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Eggleston, has anyone promised anything to you or threatened you in any way in order to encourage you to admit these allegations?
No.
Mr. Eggleston? Okay. Are you admitting these allegations of your own free will?
Yes.
Ms. Poles, has anyone told you that the court would give you easier treatment if you admitted these allegations?
No.
Mr. Eggleston, same question.
No.
Thank you. The court is satisfied there's a factual basis to accept the plea that's been entered by Ms. Poles and Mr. Eggleston. I'm satisfied that both parents have been fully advised of their rights and are freely, understandingly, and voluntarily entering into these pleas regarding the allegations of this petition. I further find by preponderance of the evidence that one or more of the statutory grounds alleged in the petition are true, and that Ms. Poles and Mr. Eggleston are respondents in this matter. Appellate review is available to challenge any errors in the adjudicatory process, which may be challenged in an appeal from the initial order of disposition following adjudication. If you are indigent, you are entitled to the appointment of an attorney to represent you on any appeal as of right and to preparation of relevant transcripts. You may be barred from challenging the assumption of jurisdiction or removal of your children from your care and custody in an appeal from the order terminating parental rights if you do not timely file an appeal under MCR 7.204 or a delayed appeal under MCR 3.993C. At any time while the court retains jurisdiction over your children, you may challenge the continuing exercise of that jurisdiction by filing a motion for rehearing pursuant to MCL 712A.21 or by filing an application for leave to appeal with the Michigan Court of Appeals. And Ms. Walker, do you and your adjudicative witnesses wish to be excused at this time?
Your Honor, it was my understanding that we were going to proceed on the unknown father today.
Oh, that's right. All right. All right. Would you call your first witness, please?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Alyssa Catterberg. How are you employed?
I'm employed by the state of Michigan.
And are you familiar with the minor children in this case as well as the parents?
I am, yes.
And who is the biological mother of David?
That is unknown.
Just a reminder, use initials, please.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Alyssa, I'll re-ask the question. Can you please, or who is the unknown unknown parent of the youngest DP? Or the father of the youngest DP?
The father is not known.
And has anybody come forward to identify themselves as the father?
No.
And have they done anything to rectify the conditions in the home that brought this case into care?
No.
And did you talk to Ms. Poles about who the father could be?
I did.
And did she indicate who it could have been?
She did not know, and she was not pursuing paternity.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Owens?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Fagan?
No questions.
Ms. Lowry?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just briefly, Ms. Poles did not give you any names for possible fathers for DP, the youngest?
She did not know.
Okay. Did you ask her if she's the only person that knew who possible DP's, the youngest father could be?
She just stated, could you rephrase that?
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of confusing. Is there anyone else that you could talk to help find out if there are any other possible names for DP, the youngest father?
Ms. Poles did not provide any names of any individuals.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Walker,
I have no follow-up.
Mr. Owens,
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Fagan.
Nothing, thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Walker, any further witnesses on this?
No further witnesses or evidence.
Mr. Owens,
I have no witnesses, thank you.
Ms. Lowry,
I have no witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Fagan,
No witnesses.
Mr. Nunzio.
No witnesses at this time, thank you.
All right, statements, Ms. Walker,
Your Honor, I would just ask that the unknown father be made a respondent in this case.
Mr. Owens,
I support the prosecutor's position, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Lowry,
Your Honor, I would make a general objection to the unknown father being made a respondent.
Mr. Fagan.
No position.
All right, thank you. The court finds that there's a preponderance of the evidence based on the evidence presented today that the unknown father is a respondent in this matter, and that one or more of the statutory grounds alleged in the petition are true regarding this respondent. Okay, now, Ms. Walker, would you and your adjudicative witnesses like to be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No.
No
All
objection.
right,
Your Honor.
all right, thank you, you're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Moving on to disposition, Mr. Owens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before we start, I did attempt to see my younger clients yesterday via Zoom, but we had technical difficulties with that particular foster parent. I see that she's present today, so I'm hoping those technical difficulties are resolved. And I do believe that my middle client, DP, is currently in school, so we will have to attempt after. But I think, anyway, we will attempt later on to set that up, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
I did see the elder DP earlier in this matter, so I did comply with that. But this time I would call Bethany Robus. I think I pronounced that correctly.
Mr. Owens.
Thank you. You were employed by whom?
I am employed by Samaritas.
You are the foster care caseworker assigned to this matter. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And let's talk about the children, and we were addressing them by initials and by their ranking, I guess. DP is currently residing with a paternal grandparents. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we have a sibling split. And why do we have a sibling split at this time?
There's a sibling split due to the fact that, for one, we don't have a paternity for DP the youngest. We don't have fit and willing relatives for DP the middle as well to reside with.
It's my understanding that the two younger DPs are residing in a different foster home, but she could not take all three of us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And also that DP does have an established, the elder, excuse me, does have an established bond with the paternal grandparents, having resided there for a substantial period of time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Let's talk about DP the elder. How old is he?
DP the elder is 6 years old.
And is he in school?
He is in school.
And any issues in school, behavior and or academics?
He does have some behavioral issues that they are working on in school.
And what's being done to address those?
He's working with his teacher, the school administration, and the school counselor.
And is he receiving any outside counseling outside of the school at this time?
I have put in a referral for outside counseling, and he has not started yet.
Physical health issues, any medical issues with DP the elder?
He does have asthma and eczema.
And those are being treated currently, is that correct?
That is correct.
Let's talk about parenting time between the mother. Is that occurring?
Yes, it is.
And how often?
Twice a week for 1 hour each session.
Is that with the other siblings also?
That's correct.
And how do those visits go with all three of them?
Those visits have been going very well.
Okay. Any other issues with DP the elder that what about visits with the father at this time?
At this time, we aren't having visits with Mr. Eggleston due to some clarification errors as far as the court order, as well as his means of his probation.
So, okay, but those are gonna be worked on, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so you're willing to allow supervised parenting time between him and DP the elder, is that correct?
That's correct, as long as that doesn't break the terms of his probation.
Let's talk about DP, the middle child, and
Yes,
she is also, I believe, in school, is that correct?
that's correct.
And how is she doing?
She is doing quite well in school. She's attending school. She's in kindergarten.
It's my understanding that she actually resided with the current foster parent previous to this case being here, is that correct?
That's correct.
Any medical issues with her?
There are none.
Any emotional or mental health issues?
There are none diagnosed, no.
DP, the youngest,
Mhm.
is obviously an infant, it's a son.
Yes.
Any, obviously not in school yet, but any medical issues?
No medical issues.
And any other concerns with the children, any of the 3 children that the court needs to be made aware of today?
Not that I'm aware of.
Let's talk about the parents. Now, the mother has a treatment plan, is that correct?
That's correct.
She assigned it, is that correct?
Yes.
Let's talk about, obviously, one of the main issues here is going to be substance abuse. What is she doing to address that issue?
She has been referred for a substance abuse assessment, which she has scheduled. We've also begun random drug tests.
And what are the most recent drug tests?
I'm sorry.
Most recent drug tests, are they positive, negative? What are they?
We have received back one screen, and it came back as negative.
Okay. What about housing?
She has secure housing.
Have you been to that housing yet?
I have been.
Okay, is it appropriate for children?
It is.
Income, is she employed?
She's not employed.
Okay, what's this? Is she looking for a job? How's she getting by?
Currently, the YWCA has been paying her bills. She is in a domestic violence recovery program through them.
Where is the source of the domestic violence? She's a victim, I'm assuming?
Yes.
And who is an alleged perpetrator?
That she did not disclose to me.
Okay, that would be important, obviously, for any therapist to know. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Any other income? And she does parenting time, and that's going well.
Yes.
What other issues are we dealing with the mother at this time?
Emotional stability and mental health.
And what is being done for that?
We have referred her to a psychological assessment, which she has attended. She is also getting signed up for therapy through Network 180.
Do we have the psychological evaluation back yet?
Not yet.
Okay. But she did complete it, and who did the psychological?
HRA Psychological Services. She did attend December 28th, and there's a follow-up appointment for her in February.
Now, any other issues with the mother that she's addressing or not addressing at this time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Let's talk about Wyatt. Obviously, you know that he has on probation.
Yes.
Have you had, excuse me, have you had a chance to talk to his probation officer?
I did.
And what does the probation officer report about his compliance with his probation?
When I spoke to his probation officer, it was shortly after Mr. Eggleston's release from custody. So I don't have a whole lot of information as far as his current compliance.
Well, he is obviously participating, or should be participating, in the YSTOP program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And to your knowledge, is he doing so at this time?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Obviously, he has a big incentive to do so. Does he have any other, besides the allegations or admission of criminal sexual conduct, does he have any other mental health or emotional health issues?
He does take medication for anxiety.
And do you have a psychological evaluation for him at this point, or scheduled?
Yes, he has completed his psychological assessment.
Okay. No results yet either?
We have not got the results yet.
Substance abuse an issue with him?
No, it's not.
Have you tested him at all recently?
He hasn't been tested, but But everyone I've spoken to in relation to Mr. Eggleston, there really is no history or suspicion of substance abuse issues.
I'm assuming his terms of probation include not doing illegal substances. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he is not. He's living where now?
He is living in an apartment with his fiancee.
All right. And have you been to that apartment?
I have been.
And the fiancee, is she part of the treatment plan?
She will be.
Okay. Does she understand what's going on and with him and his child and what is the conviction? I'm assuming she was aware of that.
Yes.
Anything else for the father, Wyatt, at this time that you think needs to be addressed by the court?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. The unknown father, at this point in time, I know there was a name that was thrown out there. Have you had any contact with that individual?
I have not.
Is the mother still in a relationship with that man?
She has told me that she's not.
Okay. And what are your recommendations today? Let's see back a little bit. Your Honor, I would move for the admission of the CPS investigative report of October 16th, 2023 as number 1.
Any objection?
No objection.
Your Honor, sorry, on behalf of the unknown father, I don't have any objection, just on behalf of Mr. Talbert, because he is included in this exhibit, and I believe the proposed second exhibit, I would just ask that those be admitted, but not in regards to any substantive information for Mr. Talbert.
I agree with that request, Your Honor. It's appropriate.
All right. It's admitted with that stipulation.
Also, the same for the second exhibit, which is the case service plan from Bethany, along with the treatment parent agency agreements of 1220, and those Mr. Talbot should also be excluded in that.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor, as stated, no.
No objection.
No objection.
All right. It's admitted with those same stipulations.
All right. And Bethany, I'm sorry. What are your recommendations?
My recommendations are that DP the elder, DP the middle, and DP the younger are made temporary court wards under care and supervision of MDHHS and Samaritas. That DP the elder, DP the middle, and DP the younger remain in their current placements. That Michaela Pohl's parenting time is to be supervised. That Richard Tolbert's parenting time is to be supervised. That Wyatt Eggleston's parenting time is to be supervised. That Michaela Pohl's, Richard Tolbert, and Wyatt Eggleston comply with and benefit from their PATPs and recommended services. That our permanency goal remains reunification, and that this matter be reviewed in 90 days.
Thank you. I have no further questions or exhibits, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Fagan.
Thank you. Is there anything additional that you'd like my client to be doing right now in connection with this case?
I believe she is up to date on everything that I've requested of her.
Is she showing a willing attitude to do the things you've asked her to do?
Yes, she is.
And she's completed the things that she's been able to complete, correct?
Correct.
And of course, you've explained to her that the goal is that the children be returned to her upon her successfully completing a parent agency treatment plan, correct?
Correct.
Has she shown any uncertainty or confusion about what a parent agency treatment plan is and what will be required of her?
No.
Thank you very much. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Mr. Nunzio.
Thank you. Just briefly, you had indicated you have no objection to Wyatt having supervised parenting time with DP the elder, correct?
Correct.
And I know there's been some confusion. There is no court order in this case preventing him from, in this particular case, not the criminal case, preventing him from having that supervised parenting time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a standing order in criminal court preventing him from having supervised visits that you're aware of? And if you are, do you have that with you, or where is that court order?
That I'm not aware of.
Okay. So if that court order doesn't exist, can he begin parenting visits?
As long as that doesn't interfere with his probation, then
okay. And he's on a delayed sentence. It's a quasi probation bond at this point in time, and we're certainly going to look into that. And would you be willing to at least help us look into that to make sure if there is a standing order or no standing order regarding parenting time supervised visits with the elder DP?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And how many times have you met with Wyatt?
I've met in person with Wyatt 2 times.
Okay. Would you agree that he does have a willingness to follow through with any of the agency programming
Yes, he
in
does.
reference to this matter?
Yes.
Okay. He's been compliant so far?
Yes.
Okay. And I know you're aware that there was some mix-up with the Y-Stop program and meeting with the counselor because of his incarceration, correct?
Correct.
And as soon as he got out, which was not too long ago, he immediately began working the treatment plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so he has a willingness and a desire to complete successfully the program as outlined to him, correct?
Correct.
And his fiance is on board with doing whatever she can to help out, making sure that she too and Wyatt are successful in Wyatt completing the program, correct?
Yes.
Okay, okay. That is all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Lowry.
Thank you. Just briefly, has Ms. Pulse given you the name of any possible fathers for the youngest DP?
She is not.
And have you asked her?
I have.
Will you continue to explore that issue with Ms. Pulse?
Yes, I will.
All right. And is there anyone that she's living with, or is there anyone else any other names that have been given to you by any other parties?
No, there's not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Owens, any follow-up?
I have no follow-up, nor do I have any further witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Fagan, any follow-up?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Nunzio, any follow-up?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right. And any witnesses? Mr. Fagan,
No, thank you.
Mr. Nunzio,
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Lowry.
Sorry, no, Your Honor.
All right. Statements, Mr. Owens.
Thank you. I think the recommendations are appropriate. I'm hoping that visits with the elder DP and the father start as soon as we can. I know there was some confusion about some of the language in the prior court orders and things of that nature. Unfortunately, he was also incarcerated too and just released I'm not sure when, but wasn't that long ago. So we're glad he's out. And I'm hoping he succeeds in his program on probation. And I know that he does have a relationship with the elder DP because they were residing together with the paternal grandparents at some point. And so I'm hoping that the parenting time issue gets resolved as soon as possible. Obviously, I think from our point of view in this court, I think he's entitled to it as far as any probation requirement. That's up to him, I guess, to determine whether or not that exists, because I think he's the one at risk if he does violate that court order, but that's not my real concern here. I think that obviously the issue here we have is substance abuse on behalf of mother. And I'm very concerned about that because, for one, it's apparently been ongoing, unknown to us when we were dealing with the elder DP case. I'm really shocked to find that in the petition, the allegations were that she first tested positive in September and then in October, and then the petition itself wasn't filed until late November. So I think CPS sort of dropped the ball on us on that one. So that's got nothing to do with the parents at this point. We're not at fault for that. But as far as a treatment plan, I do think that the treatment plan is appropriate. I asked the court to follow the recommendations, and I think we already have a date set for this for the next hearing. And as far as Mr. Talbot's concerned, I think he is entitled to parenting time pending this. I don't know, that wasn't addressed, but I'm assuming that's going on at this point. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan.
Thank you. Well, I'm pleased to hear that my client is, number one, tested clean thus far, and that she has a lot of things in place. Obviously, it'll be good to see what the psych shows, if there are any issues there, but she seems to have the appropriate attitude for succeeding with the PATP, and I would simply encourage my client to continue to do everything she can with the programming that's out there so that she can continue to have good results. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nunzio.
Thank you. I've known Wyatt since the beginning of this case, Your Honor, and as well as the criminal case, and he has changed dramatically. by virtue of treatment plans being put in place both in the criminal court and the family court, he has and will benefit from those. He's encouraged, he's motivated. His willingness to participate is encouraging, and I'm confident he will succeed both on the probation bond side of his delayed sentence with Judge Dunenfeld in criminal court, as well as completing the program before Your Honor in this court. He just got a job yesterday. Things seem to be working out for him, and by virtue of the oversight, supervision, as well as the treatment plans, he's doing very well. That's all I can say. He's a changed man, and I'm happy to see it, and I'm confident that he will succeed. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Laurie.
I'll take no position on the recommendations in regards to the unknown father. I would just ask that the agency continue to speak to Ms. Poles and other people familiar with the case and the circumstances to determine if there's a legal father, or I'm sorry, at least a biological father or a legal father for the youngest DP can be found sooner rather than later. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The court finds that the lawyer guardian ad litem has complied with the requirements of the statute, and that's on the condition that Mr. Owens is able to get confirmation that that has occurred to the court within 7 days. Email is fine. That consistent with the circumstances, reasonable efforts to prevent or eliminate removal of the children from the home were made as determined in a prior order. The reasonable efforts shall be made to preserve and unify the family, make it possible for the children to safely return home. That custody of the children with any parent presents a substantial risk of harm to the children's life, physical health, or mental well-being. No provision of service or other arrangement except removal of the children is reasonably available to adequately safeguard the children from the risk of harm to their life, physical health, or mental well-being. That conditions of custody and the placements away from the home and with the individuals with whom the children are placed are adequate to safeguard the children's health and welfare. That the siblings are not in joint placement because there is no one person who has been identified who is willing or able to take placement of all three children. That sibling contact is occurring according to law. The court orders that the children are in the temporary custody of the court, placed with the Department for Care and Supervision. That the adjudicated respondents, Ms. Poles and Mr. Eggleston, comply with and benefit from the case service plan, and I'll include the unknown father as well. The parenting time of Ms. Poles is supervised until further order of the court. Parenting time of Mr. Eggleston be supervised until further order of the court. Parenting time of Mr. Tolbert also be supervised until further order of the court. Continue the attorneys in this matter, and then we have already set adjudication for Mr. Tolbert as well as a review on the children for March 21st from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And Mr. Eggleston and Ms. Pauls, just keep doing what you're doing, complying, taking advantage and working all of the services that are provided to you. All right, is there anything further?
Yeah, I do have a question about my, there's a court form that has, I think, and I forget the name of the court form. Does the court need me to,
21st
or with a simple letter or email?
by Zoom so far.
Hold on, Mr. Nunzio, I'm going to mute you. Go ahead, say that again, Mr. Owens.
Yeah, I know there's a court form for GALs to confirm that they saw their clients, but I know one referee requires that. Does the court require that, or can I send an email or a letter to that?
An email with the details is sufficient.
Okay.
Just make sure it specifies what day and who you saw,
Yeah,
and if there are any issues.
I'll be calling the foster parent right after this hearing. I see that she has figured out how to do Zoom, so
Okay.
for that. All right.
Okay. And present in the virtual courtroom, we have the Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, Nicole Walker. We have Mother Michaela Poles. We have Mother Attorney Dan Fagan. We have Mr. Eggleston's attorney, Damian Nunzio. Father Richard Tolbert, father's attorney, Jessica Laurie. She's also representing the unknown father of is it D3 of D3, and attorney Julie Kineze, who is father's guardian ad litem for purposes of this case, the children's attorney, Mr. Owens, and various agency workers. All right, we are here for an adjudication regarding Mr. Tolbert, as well as disposition regarding all of the children. We adjudicated on the mother on January 17th, as well as the unknown father in this matter. And it's my understanding that the parties have reached a plea agreement regarding Mr. Tolbert. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Walker, would you please place on the record the agreed upon or stipulated to amendments to the petition regarding Mr. Tolbert?
Yes, Your Honor. It's my understanding that Mr. Tolbert will be making admissions to paragraphs A, paragraph C, and then an amended paragraph O, and the rest of the paragraphs would be stricken.
What was the amendment to paragraph O?
Would you like me to read it as is?
Yes, I think rather than indicate what's being stricken, just indicate what paragraph the new paragraph O reads for the record.
The amended paragraph O reads, Mr. Tolbert currently has a child in foster care placement via court case number 23-. Mr. Tolbert resides full-time with his mother, who has significant CPS history and plans to reside there long-term. It is reported that Mr. Tolbert suffers from mental illness.
All right. And is that the amendment that's been agreed to, Ms. Laurie, Ms. Kineze?
Yes,
Yes, Your
All right. And Mr. Owens, do you believe that the proposed plea is in the best interest of this child?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you.
Right. Ms. Kineze, do you believe that the proposed plea is in the best interest of your client, Mr. Tolbert?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. And do you have any questions about the amendments to the petition that Ms. Walker just placed on the record?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you a few questions about to make sure that you understand what you're about to do. Okay. If you admit the allegations in the petition as amended, you'll be giving up a number of rights. The first is the right to a trial by a judge or jury. The next is the right to require that the prosecutor prove those allegations by a preponderance, which means a majority of the evidence. The right to question the prosecutor's witnesses in person in court under oath. The right to have the court order that any witnesses that you believe would be helpful to you come to court to testify. Do you have any questions about those rights?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand the rights that you'll be losing or giving up if you enter a plea today?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there are a number of consequences that may flow from the plea. The first is that your child may be made a temporary ward of the court. And what that means is that the court has broad discretion regarding that child's placement, which may be in foster care with a relative or in a suitable institution. You'll be required to comply with a treatment plan to show that you are able to provide a safe and appropriate home for your child. You may be required to pay for some of the costs of this case, including your attorney fees, costs of care if your child is placed outside of the home, counseling costs, etc. Now, we all hope that this next thing will not happen. It certainly will not happen today, but I am required to tell you about all the possible future consequences of your plea. If you can't show that you can provide a safe and appropriate home for your child with a reasonable amount of time, given the circumstances and your progress, there may be a future request to terminate your parental rights, and your plea today may be used as evidence in that proceeding. If your rights ultimately are terminated in the future, you would have no input as to your child's medical treatment, education, discipline, or residence. You would also have no right to parenting time with your child and no right to inherit from that child or receive their earnings. If you have a child support obligation, it would continue until a court of competent jurisdiction modifies or terminates it, an order of adoption is entered, or the child is emancipated by operation of law. And again, those last couple of paragraphs that I just stated to you are not happening today, but it's something that could happen in the future if things don't go well. Do you understand all of those possible consequences?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any questions about the consequences of today's plea if you choose to admit the allegations in the petition?
No.
Have you reviewed the petition and the plea agreement with your attorney?
Yes.
Do you need to speak with them again before we go any further?
Yes.
You do need to speak with them?
Oh, no.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Just want to be sure. I mean, you're welcome to speak with your attorney at any time that you need to. Just let me know. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the allegations in the petition, and I'm going to ask you whether you admit or deny each of those allegations, okay?
Yes.
All right. Paragraph A of the amended petition reads, Ms. Michaela Poles is the biological mother of D1, D2, and D3. Do you admit?
Yeah, I meant.
Okay. C reads, Mr. Richard Talbot is the legal father to D. Just want to make sure I refer to this child correctly. D2. Do you admit that allegation?
I meant.
O, as amended, reads, Mr. Tolbert currently has a child in a foster care placement via court case number 2350. Mr. Tolbert resides full-time with his mother, who has significant CPS history and plans to reside there long-term. It is reported Mr. Tolbert suffers from mental illness. Do you admit or deny?
I meant.
Has anyone made any promises to you or threatened you in any way in order to encourage you to admit the allegations in this petition?
No.
Are you admitting these allegations of your own free will?
Yes.
Has anyone told you that the court will go easier on you if you admit the allegations in the petition?
No.
All right, I'm satisfied that there's a factual basis to accept Mr. Tolbert's plea, that he has been fully advised of his rights and is freely, understandingly, and voluntarily entering into this plea regarding the allegations of the petition. I further find by preponderance of the evidence that one or more of the statutory grounds alleged in the petition are true, and Mr. Tolbert is a respondent in this matter. Mr. Tolbert, appellate review is available to challenge any errors in the adjudicatory process, which may be challenged in an appeal from the initial order of disposition following adjudication. If you are indigent, you are entitled to the appointment of an attorney to represent you on any appeal as of right and to preparation of relevant transcripts. You may be barred from challenging the assumption of jurisdiction or the removal of your children or child from your care in an appeal from the order terminating parental rights if you do not timely file an appeal under MCR 7.204 or a delayed appeal under MCR 3.993C. At any time, while the court retains jurisdiction over your child, you may challenge the continuing exercise of that jurisdiction by filing a motion for rehearing pursuant to MCL 712A.21 or by filing an application for appeal, for leave to appeal with the Michigan Court of Appeals. All right, and Ms. Walker, would you and your adjudicative witnesses like to be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, any objection to them being excused?
None, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You are excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Owens, are you prepared to go on to disposition at this time?
I am, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
Just to clarify, I'm referring to D1 as who is the oldest child, or eldest, D2 as the middle child, and D3 as the baby in the group. So to make that clear, Your Honor, I would ask, I think, to admit the following exhibits. Exhibit 1 would be the case service plan, dated 3/12, and I'm going to list them all. Exhibit 2 would be the psychosocial of Mr. Talbert. Number 3 would be the substance abuse assessment of Ms. Poles. Number 4 would be a prior report, and CPS investigative report dated 10/16/23. Number 5 would be the case service plan of 12/20/23. And number 6 would be the CPS updated service plan of 11/22/23. The last 3 were admitted at the prior hearing concerning the other parents, but not as to Mr. Tolbert. So I move for the admission of those documents today.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, they're all admitted.
Thank you. I would call Bethany Robick. Okay, let's talk about the children first. D1 is residing with a relative, a grandparent, is that correct?
Correct.
Any physical health issues with him in the last quarter?
D1 does have asthma that's being treated. He did start an ADHD medication as well.
As far as schooling, how's he doing in school?
Academically, is doing well. He is having some behavioral issues due to hyperactivity and his ADHD.
Is he in a special ed program?
He's not.
Is there a reason why he isn't? Did he qualify? Was he evaluated at all?
I don't think he needs special ed as far as academics go. He is working with a school counselor, as well as we've referred him to enhanced foster care to add additional support.
Let's talk about parenting time. Does he have parenting time with his father, Wyatt?
Yes, he does.
And how is that going?
It seems to be going well.
Okay, what about parenting time with his mother, Miss Poles?
Yes,
And any issues there?
no issues.
Okay. Any other issues with D1 that we should be aware of?
No issues.
D2, I know that there's a current investigation concerning the allegations of potential sex abuse. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it's my understanding that she was interviewed on the 18th, I believe, or the 19th at the Children's Assessment Center. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay, we don't have the results of that yet, do we?
We do not.
Okay. She's residing along with D3 with the Victor relative. Is that correct?
Correct.
And any physical health issues with D2 or D3?
No physical health issues with D2. D3 has recently been prescribed an orthopedic helmet to help her head shape.
Is D3 meeting all those guidelines or benchmarks for an infant?
Yep, she's meeting all developmental milestones.
Okay. And they have visitation with their mother also?
Correct.
And is that with the other sibling?
Yes,
And how are those visitations going with mother?
they're going very well.
D2 is Mr. Talbot's child. Is he having parenting time at their visitations?
Yes,
And how often?
twice weekly.
How's Mr. Talbot's attendance been?
It's been inconsistent.
Okay. And during that time, when he does visit, how's he going? Good, bad, ugly, what?
We haven't had any issues. There hasn't been anything inappropriate going on.
Okay. Anything else concerning D2 and D3 that maybe the court should be aware of?
Not at this time.
Let's talk about the parents. Father Wyatt Eggleston is currently on probation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I know you've attempted, did you ever successfully talk to his probation officer concerning his progress?
Yes, I have.
And what is his progress in that program?
He is participating in the youth sex offender program. He is attending weekly group therapy meetings and doing individual therapy.
And when does he expect to complete that?
It could take about a year.
Okay. And now he's in a relationship with somebody, is that correct?
Correct.
And is she part of the treatment plan?
She will be added to it, yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about his treatment plan. Any mental health issues that we're concerned about for him?
He is diagnosed with ADHD. We also are, of course, concerned with his history of sexual abuse.
And as far as the ADHD, is he taking any medication for that?
To my understanding, he is taking Adderall.
Okay. What about other illegal drugs? Does he have a history of substance abuse?
He does not. That hasn't been a concern with Mr. Eggleston.
Okay. Is he employed now?
He is employed.
And he has provided proof of employment?
I have not seen proof of employment.
Okay. He's residing with his significant other, is that correct?
Correct.
Right. And have you been to their housing?
I have.
And how was that?
It is appropriate.
Okay. Did you ask for a psychological evaluation of him?
I have.
Okay. And when is that going to take place?
That took place in January.
Okay. Did we get the results of that?
Yes, that should have been submitted at the last hearing.
Okay. All right. Any other issues with Mr. Eggleston?
No issues.
Okay, he's doing quite well and working with you and working with his probation officer. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement, yes.
Let's switch over to Ms. Poles. Substance abuse is obviously a main issue here. Has she been testing for drugs at this time?
Yes, she has.
And does she attend all those tests?
Yes, she does.
Any significant results in any of those tests?
We have had kind of several negatives and several positives. We have 2 positive results for amphetamines and methamphetamines. We have 2 positive results for THC, and we also have 5 negative results.
When was the last positive for meth?
Less positive for meth would have been 2-1.
Okay, and since then, she's been testing negative on meth, but positive for THC.
Yes.
Does her use of testing positive THCs, is that of concern?
That's a lesser concern than the methamphetamines.
Now, she had a significant other who was alleged to have been imputed the father, but is the unknown father. He has a history of substance abuse. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are they still in a relationship?
It has been reported to me that they are not.
But there's some concern about him because of his history of drug abuse. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk about mental health for her. Is she in any type of therapy for substance abuse or other mental health issues?
She has just completed an intake at Network 180 to get established in those services.
Income, is she employed?
She's not employed.
She's not?
No, she's not.
How does she get by?
She's part of a domestic violence program through the YWCA. They are funding her housing and utilities.
Okay. Is she looking for employment?
She's not.
Is that something you would expect her to do or want her to do, desire to do?
No, she's currently applying for disability. So I know her employment options would be pretty limited.
What's her basis for applying for disability?
Her mental illness.
And do we have a psychological evaluation on her also?
We do not.
Is one scheduled?
We had one scheduled, and she was not able to complete it.
Is that going to be rescheduled, going to be done again, referred elsewhere? What's the situation there?
We are going to have to refer that elsewhere.
Parenting time, I think we mentioned that goes well.
Yes.
Housing, have you been to her home?
Yes, I have.
And is it good, appropriate?
Yep, good and appropriate.
Okay. So overall, she's concerned about her is still substance abuse and mental health issues. Is that correct? And her lack of employment or income. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Talbert, have you been in contact or are you involved in his other foster care case?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You're the worker on that one also?
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk about him briefly. He's been inconsistent in parenting time. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is there a reason for that?
I can't say that there's a specific reason. We do have Mr. Tolbert on a confirmation plan. He does have to confirm the morning of visits that he is going to attend, and sometimes he doesn't confirm. We've had in the past where he's confirmed and then not attended.
Let's talk about mental health. What's he doing for treatment?
Currently, he's working with Ottawa County Community Mental Health.
And have you had a chance to talk to those individuals?
I have not. I have submitted a release of information signed by Mr. Tolbert, and I have gotten some paperwork, including a psychosocial evaluation from them.
Okay. His income, I'm assuming, is disability. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he's still residing with his mother. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's no plan, I guess, for him to get independent housing at this time.
Correct.
Any other issues, I guess, for Mr. Talbot that you're asking him to do at this time?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Anything else, I guess, maybe that I sort of glossed over? You think that should be expanded further for the court?
I will say with Mr. Tolbert, based on his diagnosis of cannabis use disorder and his extensive history, we have included that in the treatment plan for him to get sober, or at least start drug testing. So that won't be a barrier to his ability to parent.
As far as the children are concerned, are the current placements meeting their needs?
Yes.
All right. What are your recommendations today?
My recommendations are that D1, D2, and D3 remain temporary court wards under the care and supervision of DHHS and Samaritas. That D1, D2, and D3 remain in their current placements with licensed foster parents or approved caregivers. That Michaela Pohl's parenting time is to be supervised. Richard Tolbert's parenting time is to be supervised. Wyatt Eggleston's parenting time remains supervised. That Michaela Pohl's, Richard Tolbert, and Wyatt Eggleston comply with and benefit from their PATPs and recommended services. The permanency goal remains reunification, and that this matter be reviewed in 90 days.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Fagan.
Thank you. When asked by Mr. Owens about issues for Ms. Poles, you indicated a lack of income, or he indicated a lack of income was an issue. It has not been an issue for her thus far, correct?
Correct.
Okay. She has her housing is essentially stable and has been established for a while, correct?
Correct.
And it's an appropriate place if all things being equal, the kids could be there, couldn't
Correct.
they? Okay. So her not looking for work is not a real impediment to the return of children, correct?
Correct.
The real issue right now is, I guess, a two-part issue is number one is the drug problem, and number two, maybe the mental health issues. You've already addressed the mental health, at least you've attempted to through the psych that you requested, and another one will be requested, I take it?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Poles is generally accommodating when she works with you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So as far as the drug use goes, the last positive was for meth was February 1, I think you said?
Yes.
And how often is she being tested?
She's being tested weekly.
Okay. There's no indication she's dodging tests or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What is the nature of the assistance she's getting to address the meth addiction?
Currently, like I said, previously, she is just underwent an intake at Network 180. So she's going to get established in mental health counseling as well as get a recovery coach.
Okay. And that's the best way we know to deal with this kind of addiction, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lowry.
Thank you. All right. Turning it to Mr. Talbert. You indicated that you have a side release to get information from the ACT program through Ottawa County. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you have a specific contact there to talk to get check-ins on how he's doing with his services there?
No, I've not been given a specific contact.
Okay, but you have a release
I do.
to reach out to them.
Yes.
And is it your understanding he's participating in medication management as well as consistent therapy services through that program?
Yes.
Okay. And at least according to the psychosocial that was provided, his mental health is being managed appropriately.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything else that you need in order to get more information as far as what specifically they're working on with him and the progress that he's making?
I would just need a specific contact at Ottawa County Community Mental Health that I can reach out to.
Okay. Because Mr. Talbert has people that come to his home and provide this service. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And at this time, that's the only service that's needed, just as continued compliance with that to address emotional stability?
Correct.
Okay. And he's consistent with his medication?
To my understanding, yes.
All right. Okay. Turning to parenting times. Your analysis was that Mr. Talbert is inconsistent, but then you said, I can't give any specific reason.
Correct.
You are aware that Mr. Talbert does not have transportation and lives in Standale, correct?
Correct.
Has that not been stated to you several times that is his biggest barrier to attending parenting times regularly?
I am aware of his transportation difficulties, yes.
Okay, so that is the specific reason if there's problems with getting to parenting times that he is not able to be there.
I can't say for every instance, but that has been an issue with him, yes.
All right. And I know you said there's times he's confirmed and then been unable to find a ride there. But haven't there also been times where he's confirmed, appeared, and then showed up and found out that his child was sick or the visit was canceled or virtual?
There have been instances of that, yes.
All right. And it's a $30, $40 Uber ride from his home to the agency. Is that correct?
To my understanding.
So he was needing to do that 4 times a week?
Correct.
Okay. And it's my understanding that D2 is placed in Spring Lake. Is that correct? getting a ride from Standale to Grand Rapids. Does this make sense?
Yes, we're having other meetings that we're coordinating this with.
All right.
So Mr. Tolbert isn't the only parent or child involved in this case.
So has Mr. Talbert suggested or have that, the agency look at potentially doing a visit somewhere like a library in Walker or McDonald's or somewhere else?
That's been explored. Currently, the agency doesn't have the additional staff to accommodate that.
What, I guess I'm not understanding what additional staff that would require.
Well, we need staff to transport the child as well as to supervise the visit.
Right, but you already need that right now anyways with someone's transporting the child, is that correct, from Spring
Correct.
Lake?
But to add an additional visit
Or I'm saying,
separately for him, then we would need another day, another time, another case aid.
is there someone else that's visiting at that same time? I guess I'm not understanding.
So we have all three parents are doing visits at the same evenings.
Okay. All right, I see. Okay, but it sounds like the agency has figured out a way for going forward for Mr. Talbert to have transportation to the visits through the agency. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's going to be probably a huge relief in that barrier.
Yes.
All right. I think you said there's nothing inappropriate during the visits, but I mean, how did the visits go?
The visits seem to go fine. Mr. Tolbert is friendly and with the kids tend to like Mr. Tolbert. He can lose steam about halfway through, and sometimes will get on his phone or like video call his mother to kind of get through the second half. But
well, he wants his family members to get to know D2 also. Would you agree?
yes.
All right. And so with this new ability to at least have some transportation to parenting times, will you be able to make a referral again for the supportive visitation?
Yes, we will.
Okay. All right. So that will provide an additional person that can kind of work with Mr. Talbert and in his parenting times with D2.
Yes.
All right. And speaking of family members, I know Mr. Talbert's sister had been interested in placement of D2. Has the agency been able to assess her as a relative placement provider?
She has been assessed.
And was she appropriate and approved?
Yes.
All right. Is she been able to have visits with D2?
Yes.
All right. But at this point, D2 still remains in her current fictive kin placement?
Correct.
Is there a reason why she's not being placed with a relative?
We don't want to split the siblings.
Okay. This is her half sibling D3 that she's
Correct.
placed with? All right. Is the agency providing opportunities for Mr. Talbert's sister and mother who are engaged to visit with D2?
Correct.
In regards to Mr. Talbert's housing, have you been able to view the house and determine if it's appropriate?
I have been to the house.
And is it appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. There's 4 bedrooms and 2 adults that live in the home?
Correct.
All right. All right. I think in your parent agency treatment plan, you indicated that at some point, Mr. Talbert maybe didn't have a phone that always works, but is that a barrier that's been overcome? He does have a phone that and is able to communicate with the agency?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. So if you generally still reach him through his mother, Miss Hall?
Correct.
Okay. So if he has a new phone number, he can provide that to you?
Yes.
All right. And if the family also has a landline and they're going to be getting a phone, physical phone, that would also be helpful for you to be able to reach them?
Absolutely.
All right. But overall, does Mr. Talbert at least keep you in communication as best as possible?
I would say so.
All right. Okay. And on the other case where I think you said you were also the foster care worker, the termination of the supportive visitation, due to non-participation, would you agree that that had to do a lot with him not having transportation to the agency?
That I can't say.
All right, but it's the same issue that we've had. He lives in Standell. He's lived in Standell, the agencies in Grand Rapids. And okay, you indicated you wanted to start doing drug screens.
Correct.
Okay, and is that something that you've talked to Mr. Talbert about?
We have not spoken about that yet.
All right. Do you think it's appropriate to do an updated substance use assessment to determine if that's still a need?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. All right. All right, so if you're able to get a specific contact at ACT, you can hopefully be provided with more information about all the services that Mr. Talbert has been participating in for several years consistently.
Yes.
And the next kind of big referral he's working with is the supportive visitation and looking for that consistency in parenting time.
Yes.
All right, and is Mr. Talbert kept up to date on concerns, like with the concerns and the allegations?
To my understanding, yes.
Who would be keeping him in the loop with that? I mean, it would be you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so did you update him on that circumstance allegations in regards to D2?
We did speak about it.
Okay, all right. Okay, and just in regards to the unknown father, I believe there was a mention to Ms. Pohl's significant other who is alleged to be the putative. Do we have the name of this person, and has this person been contacted?
We do have the name of this person.
Okay, and what name is that?
It's David Killinger.
Okay.
I've been told by not only Ms. Pohl's, but other family members involved that due to timing, Mr. Killinger can't be the father of D3. I think that's something that still would need to be established.
Yes, I would think.
Sorry, can you spell that last name for the record?
Killenger.
I believe it's in the original or the last petition, Your Honor.
For transcript purposes, though, it needs to be spelled when somebody references it on the record. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, you've spoken to Ms. Pohl's and her family members, but you need to talk to Mr. Killinger, correct?
Yes, I have not spoken to him.
Okay, is that something that you can do going forward?
Yes, if I get provided with his contact information, I certainly can.
Are you able to search databases to see if you can locate contact information if Ms. Pohl's is not willing to give it to you?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And whether letters, phone calls, and something to reach out and find out if he is interested in determining if he's the father of D3?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And have any other names been provided to you?
No other names have been brought up, no.
Okay. And you will continue to ask Ms. Pohl's if she has any other possibilities?
Yes, I will.
All right. Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Nunzio.
No questions. Thank you, Your Honor. We're satisfied with the questions and answers to the witnesses. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Owens, any follow-up?
Yes. You've been out to the home on Andale, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's off of Lake Michigan Drive?
It's off of a road off of Lake Michigan Drive, yes.
And are you aware that that's a major street and and bus transportation is available out there?
To my understanding.
Okay. Is there a reason why Mr. Talbot does not take the bus?
Not that I am aware of. We have provided Mr. Tolbert with gas cards and have offered bus pass.
And he's residing with his mother. Is his mother able to drive and has a car?
His mother was providing him transportation, but then her vehicle broke down.
All right. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Fagan?
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Ms. Lowry?
Nothing further.
Mr. Nunzio?
No follow-up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Owens, any additional witnesses?
None, Your Honor, no exhibits.
Ms. Lowry?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Fagan?
No witnesses. Thank you.
Mr. Nunzio?
We have none. Thank you.
All right, statements.
Thank you.
Mr. Owens?
Thank you. I was able to Zoom with D1 yesterday. He seemed pretty happy where he was at with his grandmother. My attempts to Zoom with D2, D3 have been unsuccessful. We were supposed to set something up on the 18th, I think it was, but there was a CAC assessment going on, and so that was not. It was the timing was questionable, and between the current foster mother children's schedule and my schedule, we just not been able to connect with a Zoom time. So still working on that. She does. We're in contact, and I'm hoping after today's hearing we'll reestablish the phone contact and get that Zoom thing set up with D2 and D3. Obviously, I'm concerned about the investigation, and I'm waiting the result of that because that does concern me. Obviously, as far as the parents are concerned, work in progress. I think Mr. Eggleston is doing the best of the group here. Obviously, we have some concerns about his past history. Where this takes us, I don't know. This case, of course, I can recall, Your Honor, started back in April of last year with D1. And for various reasons, we didn't adjudicate until this year in January on the D1 and D2 and D3 because of the additional allegations concerning our mother's, Ms. Pohl's, drug use and whatnot. So we're really long into this case now. Initially, D1 was residing with the mother, and I have to admit I can't recall the exact date that D1 was removed, but we are into this case for a substantial period of time as it relates to D1. I'm not asking for a permanency planning hearing today because of, I think, the additional adding Mr. Talbert and others, and since we're, like I said, just adjudicated on D1, and as I stated, that obviously Mr. Eggleston had issues involving the criminal proceedings, which obviously he wanted to take care of, and we're glad he did. He was very successful. I congratulate his attorneys on that case. Maybe Mr. Silver, maybe not Mr. Nunzio on that, but we'll credit over there too, I guess. I was quite impressed that they were able to pull that off. I congratulate them on that. So, but anyway, Your Honor, we're still in progress here, and I asked the court to follow the recommendations and set this matter for a formal review in 90 days. And I will inform the court as soon as I get a hold of the current foster parent and Zoom with D2 and D3.
Thank you. Mr. Fagan.
Thank you. Well, I think that the recommendations are appropriate, and many things are in place for my client to succeed. She has a substantial hill to climb, as does everybody who has a problem with meth. So I encourage her to do all in her power to slay this dragon, and so that she can move forward successfully with this plan. Thank you.
Ms. Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. On behalf of Mr. Talbert, he is engaged. He wants to work services. He wants to participate. He wants to be at every parenting time. He wants D2, to be placed with him at some point. So he is very motivated. He's done a lot of work over the last few years with this ACT program. There's in-home services, and he's been able to, really get any mental illness in a stable place where he's able to be successful. And so I just encourage the agency to reach out to those providers. If there's specific names, hopefully we can get him in contact with that. I'm glad they were able to get some documentation and they have a release. So we can move forward with that. And I'm really, really happy that the agency's been able to figure out the transportation issue for Mr. Talbert because, it has been an issue. I know he's gone to visits and, the kids aren't there or the kids left before he got there because he can't get there exactly at the time it starts. And I know they're pretty strict, and I understand that the capacity of the agency, they can do what they can, but, when that's one of our biggest barriers, I think we need to throw all our resources into that. And so I appreciate them getting that set up. And I hope that we'll have a great report going forward for those, in regards to those parenting times. Because that has been very frustrating for Mr. Talbert and his mother. There's case aides, there's so many people, and they show up and then it's not happening, or they don't find out in time that a kid is sick and it's going to be virtual, but he has back-to-back parenting time. So he's traveling from Stanville. There's just a lot of moving pieces that has made it difficult for him. But he's doing what he can, and I know he will continue to keep working towards reunification with D2. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would state that Ms. Lowry continues to be a strong advocate for Mr. Talbert. We stay in touch, and I know she continues to reach out with him to review not only the petition for today, but services. And I echo the sentiment that he is involved in the appropriate mental health treatment in Ottawa County, and now we just need that connection so we can have continued reports as to his ability to show emotional stability in his mental health treatment. I think the transportation piece was really a deterrent in his 100% ability to participate in parenting time. And now that has been worked on, that he will have transportation there at least for 3 out of the 4 ways. I understand it to the agency that you'll see a greater participation in that, and the ability to re-engage with the supported visitation will allow for expanded parenting time. Hopefully, I understand this is a situation where he's getting to know his daughter, but from all accounts, from what I've read, it's been positive and in his best interest to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nunzio.
Thank you. On behalf of Wyatt Eggleston, Your Honor, I can assure the court, having worked on this case from the very beginning, Mr. Eggleston is a completely changed person. And I think it's the benefit of both the programs, both in the criminal court, obviously in the family court here, that the programs obviously are bearing fruit, that he is just a changed person. His attitude, participation, working, living with another adult, and doing well is certainly a credit to the system, but it's a credit to Mr. Eggleston, who's taking full advantage of the resources that are being provided to him so that he doesn't reoffend and he can one day again, be a good dad. And we're hopeful. I know hope this springs eternal, but he is just a positive young man. Every time I have a conversation with him, he's working hard. He's positive. He likes participating. He likes doing the program and the treatment. And I think he wants to change permanently to not have to come back into the system and to do what he needs to do. And so it works. The system does, in fact, work, and we're proud of his progress. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The court finds that the lawyer guardian ad litem has complied with the requirements of the statute. That finding is conditional on receiving written confirmation. An email will suffice for Mr. Owens that he is in fact seen D2 and D3 in the next 7 days or so, hopefully. That returning the children to a parent would cause a substantial risk of harm to their life, physical health, or mental well-being, given that we're at the beginning of this case, essentially, and parents are just starting to work services. That reasonable efforts have been made to preserve and reunify the family, make it possible for the children to safely return home. That those efforts for reunification should be continued. In accordance with the statute, progress towards alleviating or mitigating the conditions that cause the children to be placed or remain in temporary foster care has not been made by any of the parents. That's not to say that progress hasn't been made in general. It just means that there's not been sufficient progress for the court to return the children home, any of these children home today. That each of the children's continued placement is necessary and appropriate, is meeting each of their individual needs. That the needs of each of these children can be met in a foster family home. That all siblings are not in joint placement due to the fact that there is no one person willing and able to take all 3 children. That sibling contact is occurring according to law. The court orders that these children continue in the protective temporary custody of the court, continuing their placement with the Department for Care and Supervision. That each of the adjudicated respondents, Ms. Poles, Mr. Eggleston, and the unknown father, and Mr. Tolbert, comply with and benefit from the case service plan. I think you each know what you need to do. Ms. Poles, certainly overcoming a pretty significant substance abuse addiction is definitely challenging. The court understands that. We all understand that. It's a journey. And essentially what the court expects is that you make some progress. I'm very pleased to hear that you have had negative screens recently. So keep up the good work and just keep trying hard. It's not an easy road to travel. So just keep trying. Mr. Tolbert, hopefully with the transportation issues being hopefully resolved for parenting time, you'll be able to have more consistent parenting time and get to know your child going forward. The parenting time of all 3 parents is to be supervised until further order of the court. Continue all of the attorneys in this matter. And Ms. Gibson, do we have a date for our next review hearing?
Yes, Your Honor, June 12th from 11 to 12.
Any conflicts with that date or time?
I will be out of the country. I don't know if it's possible to get a date prior to the 10th.
We'll find a different date.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
So when are you out of the country, Miss Lowry?
The 10th through the 17th of June.
Okay.
Okay, we will see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.